The bus hissed to a halt on cracked asphalt, its sides dusted from the last 100 miles of wind-swept road. Claire Dalton stepped off without a word, boots touching down like she had nowhere else to be, and no one left to impress. The wind tugged at her faded green canvas jacket, the kind you couldn't buy anymore, and wouldn't want to unless it had been worn in by time, sweat, and something heavier. Her jeans were scuffed, her face bare, no makeup, no smile, just a deep calm set into the lines around her eyes. Around her, the Western State Law Enforcement Training Academy roared to life like a cage of hounds. Dozens of young recruits swarmed the intake yard, broad-shouldered men in Under Armour, high and tight cuts, loud voices already marking territory. They moved in packs, the kind bred from academy dorms and precinct locker rooms, all muscle and bark and adrenaline. She walked past them like a shadow moving upstream. Someone snorted. Did someone's mom get lost? Laughter followed, not cruel, not yet, just stupid. She didn't flinch. She kept walking, carrying a single military-issue duffel that looked heavier than it should have. No patches, no rank. No hints. Just that quiet. The lead instructor, Lieutenant Braddock, stood on the gravel with arms crossed. He had the leathery face of a man who had done time in the desert, but too many years in admin had softened the bite. He barked instructions for gear check, and the recruits lined up like they were about to be deployed. Claire took her place at the end of the line, hands still resting calmly on her bag. Two recruits, Danvers, with the smug grin and sleeveless vest showing off sleeve tattoos, and Soto, the former high school linebacker turned patrol hotshot, were already eyeing her like she was the day's entertainment. "Let's help Grandma unpack," Soto joked, already tugging at the zipper before she could say a word. The bag opened with a harsh rip. Out tumbled a change of civilian clothes, a tactical belt, a pair of gloves, some standard-issue ear protection, and then something slid out with unnatural stillness and landed on top of the pile. A perfectly folded U.S. Marine Recon uniform jacket. Clean creases, faded olive, the name tape still read, Dalton. Pinned above it, catching the harsh Wyoming sun like a blade, was a silver star. Just below it, combat action ribbon. And above the heart, jump wings. The laughter died instantly. The silence was thick and immediate, like oxygen had been sucked out of the yard. Even Braddock stopped mid-sentence. Danvers froze mid-bend, hand still hovering over a pair of gloves. Soto blinked and stepped back as if the uniform might burn him. A few of the younger recruits tried to glance away without looking like they were staring. But they were, all of them. Claire didn't speak, she didn't move. She just knelt, calmly, and refolded the jacket, brushing one wrinkle flat with the back of her calloused hand. She placed it gently back into the duffel, zipped it up, and stood. The only sound was the soft wind rustling through the dry brush at the edge of the yard. And for the first time since stepping off that bus, no one laughed. The whispers came back fast, like weeds through cracked concrete. After the gear inspection and the folded uniform incident, the recruits grew quiet for a day, maybe two, but not thoughtful. The silence wasn't respect. It was confusion looking for a story. They needed to explain it away. Could be her husband's, Danvers muttered during morning stretch, or her kids. Hell, I bet she got it at a thrift store. People frame medals all the time. Soto, lacing his boots and chewing on an energy bar, grunted in agreement. I mean, come on, that jacket looked new. Ain't no way she earned that. A few nodded. Most just stayed silent. Claire never corrected them, never offered a story, and that made it worse. Because silence doesn't give people answers, it gives them room to invent ones. During drills, she stayed to herself, quiet, steady, unbothered. She was never the first to move, but when the time came, she executed without hesitation, perfectly. Room clearing exercises, smooth and precise, never a wasted step. Self-defense drills, measured, reluctant even, like she was holding back. Firearms accuracy, top 10. No showboating, just clean groupings every time. Solid grip, one of the instructors mumbled after watching her fire through a 3-second timed test. Like she's been holding steel her whole life. But Claire didn't celebrate. Didn't even react. She just ejected her magazine, cleared her chamber, and stepped aside. Let the others jostle for ranking. Let Danvers grin, and Soto flex. Let them laugh when one instructor made a crack loud enough for all to hear. Careful, Dalton. Don't break a hip on the way to the mess hall. She blinked once, then moved on. But it all changed at the obstacle course. They called it the Widowmaker. A half-mile gauntlet of thick rope climbs, wall scales, mud pits, 20-yard bear crawls under barbed wire, and 150-pound sandbag carries. It was a monster designed to drain stamina, break ego, and remind everyone that badge or rank meant nothing to gravity. The recruits huddled at the start, bouncing in place, psyching each other up. Braddock stood with a clipboard and a stopwatch, bored. Claire walked up last. She didn't stretch. She didn't talk. She just tied her boots tighter and nodded once. "Ready, Dalton?" Braddock asked, voice flat. "Always," she said. The horn blared. And then she moved. Fast. Precise. Like the course wasn't an obstacle but a memory. She scaled the 12-foot wall without hesitation, knees and elbows like pistons. Her landing was silent. She dropped into the mud and crawled like she'd been born in it. At the sandbags, she didn't grunt or stagger, she hoisted it with both hands and ran. She didn't stop, didn't slow, didn't even seem winded. When she crossed the line, Braddock looked down at his stopwatch, then looked again, then lifted his head like he wasn't sure who he was looking. They called it the flashbang room with a kind of hushed reverence, like it was a rite of passage no one came through clean. A full-spectrum sensory gauntlet, flickering strobe lights, deafening simulated gunfire, smoke, chaos, and split-second choices. Candidates entered alone. Armed with only a sidearm, instincts, and whatever training hadn't fallen out of their heads under pressure. It was designed to weed out the weak, the unsure, the pretenders. By the time they reached that stage of training, Claire had said less than 50 words to anyone. She moved like background noise there, but unacknowledged. Danvers still cracked jokes under his breath. Soto called her Sergeant Granny whenever he thought no one official could hear. But when Braddock stood before the group and said, "Flashbang room's up next, who's first?" it was Claire who raised her hand. The laughter was cautious this time, uneasy, but Danvers still smirked and nudged Soto. "Well, at least we'll know what not to do," he whispered. Claire didn't react. She stepped forward and took the sim-issue sidearm like it was an extension of her own body. No theatrics, no bravado. Just a small nod to the range officer before slipping into the dark corridor that led to the room. The door shut behind her with a metallic slam. 30 seconds passed. Then the red lights flared. Mission complete. Instructors blinked. Recruits looked around, confused, some checking their watches. One of them even said aloud, "No way." Lieutenant Braddock didn't speak. He walked to the monitor station, motioning for the rest to stay where they were. The footage showed everything. Claire moved like liquid, her silhouette slicing through smoke as if she could see the unseen. No wasted movement. Every step covered by low crouch angles, her gun never out of alignment with her field of vision. She pieced the chaos apart like she'd rehearsed it in her sleep. Target 1, simulated assailant with a hostage, neutralized with a clean headshot from 15 feet. Target 2, high perch, flashing intermittently through strobe. 2 shots, center mass, under a quarter second. She didn't even flinch when the flashbang simulation triggered. She simply blinked, lowered her center of gravity, pivoted her stance, and hit target 3 with a one-handed shot, while the other hand shielded her vision. By the time she exited, she'd neutralized 6 targets. No collateral, no misfires, no hesitation. The simulation had been programmed for 2-minute runs. She cleared it in 28 seconds. When Braddock returned, he didn't speak for a long time, He just stared at the floor before glancing at his fellow instructors. One of them, Sergeant Kwan, a former Tier 1 operator himself, leaned forward and rewound the footage again. His brows drew tight. He watched the way Claire shifted between cover, the way she controlled her breathing between shots, the pattern of how she cleared corners. That wasn't academy training. That was doctrine, Marine recon doctrine. Down to the deliberate movement speed, the shoot pause reacquire rhythm, the ammo discipline. Everything about her said she'd done this before, under real conditions. With live fire and live stakes. Kwan leaned back, exhaling slowly. "She's not here to learn," he said quietly. He looked at Braddock. "She's here because she missed it." Claire stood by the exit, wiping condensation from her neck, quiet as ever. But the room? The room had changed. The final scenario wasn't just difficult, it was designed to break people. A simulated hostage rescue deep in the woods, using live rounds, controlled fire zones, and embedded civilian actors whose lives, if real, would depend on every decision made. No preset route. No intel. Just terrain, time pressure, and instinct. The instructors called it the wild card. Most recruits floundered in it. A few succeeded by the book. No one had ever finished it without a misstep. Until Claire. She was third in the rotation, after Danvers' over-aggressive push that led to a simulated hostage fatality and Soto's panicked friendly fire incident. Both had stumbled out of the woods pale and winded, their confidence leaking out like air from a shot tire. Claire disappeared into the tree line without a word, radio silent. The instructors gave each other tight looks. The recruits didn't speak. And for 20 minutes, there was nothing but forest, wind, and time. Then came the signal 3 bursts of static. Scenario complete. Everyone stared as Claire emerged from the woods, her sleeves rolled, rifle slung, eyes scanning like the op wasn't over yet. Her vest was streaked with pine sap and dirt, but not a single mark indicated stress or haste. She moved like she had been there before. The instructors checked the results twice. Every hostile neutralized, no civilian injuries, 0 unnecessary shots. Her entry path didn't follow any previous route. She'd flanked from the north ridge, found elevation, mapped trajectories by terrain, and picked off sentries before they even triggered the simulation AI. She didn't clear the building. She isolated it, blocked off escape routes, and flushed the hostage, take her into a kill zone of her own making. It was textbook, except it wasn't any textbook the Academy used. She had written her own. By the time she returned to the clearing, the recruits were waiting. Not with jokes, not with side eyes, but with silence. That thick, bristling silence that hangs just before something true is finally acknowledged. Claire knelt under a tree, her rifle broken down across her lap, a small cleaning kit laid out beside her like a ritual she'd done 1,000 times. She cleaned without hurry, each stroke precise. The same way she spoke, if she spoke at all. Danvers walked over alone, all the swagger gone. His voice came quiet, almost careful. "Ma'am," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "Who are you really?" Claire looked up once, then reached into the side pocket of her rucksack. What she pulled out was a battered, waterproof sleeve, its edges frayed, corners curled, plastic cloudy with age. She handed it to him without ceremony and went back to her cleaning. Inside were 3 things. A photograph of Claire Dalton in full Marine recon combat gear, crouched in the ruins of a blown-out compound, sidearm drawn, eyes alert. A formal commendation, signed in crisp black ink by a former U.S. president. The gold-embossed seal still shimmered beneath the smudges. And typed in simple block font on a line at the bottom. Staff Sergeant Claire Dalton retired, 3 tours, Silver Star, 0 regret. Danvers read it 3 times before handing it to Soto, whose mouth moved, but no words came out. By nightfall, the story had made its way through the entire academy, and by morning, every recruit in Claire's cohort stood when she entered a room. No one called her grandma again. They called her, Sergeant. And this time, they meant it.